we are ready to start. Let me share the screen with you, please. It is looking good there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello and good morning to all the participants. It is a pleasure to have you here today. Our discussion will center on the topic of cloud-related risk and the most recent incident of cyber attacks that have come to our attention. And the schedule for today proceeding is as follows. Top 10 cloud service providers, cloud security breaches, and the biggest cybersecurity incidents, and what I can do with Reachbot and ransomware attack demonstration. As many of today's organizations know, they have migrated their services to the cloud or are in the process or have a mix of virtualized environments with their organizations. As many know, the most recognized and listening to are as Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud Platform, and irrespective of the sequence in which they are mentioned or the variation in the scope of their respective features, a substantial number of us have either employed the services of one of these private cloud providers or currently maintain our digital assets with their infrastructure. Furthermore, the landscape of cloud services offers a multitude of alternative competitors as we see in the reflected image. What are cloud security breaches? Cloud security breaches happen when someone who isn't supposed to get in can access your private stuff and personal info stored online. This can occur for a few reasons. Being careless, like leaving your online account open in public places because it's easy to access them from anywhere. Hackers using application programming interface APIs is in sneaky ways, sharing files, passwords, or security stuff without keeping tabs on who can see them on a cloud platform. Sometimes people working with the cloud make a mistake that accidentally miss up file security or reveal data. Cloud security, often called cloud computing security, is defending infrastructure, applications, and data stored in the cloud from threats and cyber attacks. Although cloud security has the same objectives as traditional cybersecurity, it varies in that manager must protect assets that are housed inside the infrastructure of a third-party service provider. As we see here, we have a top 10 of the largest cybersecurity incidents that could occur depending on how we have our digital assets deployed. Okay. Cloud security breaches are frequently increasing as hackers discover new ways to access private data with the correct policies and rules in place. The majority of internal security breaches in cloud computing may fortunately be readily adverted. Make sure you're prepared periodically back up your data, and grant employee access only when necessary. Establish clear guidelines for all your staff, irrespective of their access levels. The attack demonstrated a significant shift where traditional endpoints focused on ransomware actors wrote code specifically to target cloud storage services. The impact was massive, with more than 500 organizations and the data of 34 million individuals compromised, making it one of the biggest threat campaigns of 2023. For example, in this view, one of the largest hotel and casino chains in the world suffered a ransomware attack on its infrastructure that left it inoperative for around 10 days. This was due to a social engineering attack, but through this means the cybercriminals managed to enter the virtualized infrastructure that they had public. Prior to this incident, in the first 3 quarters of 2023, ransomware has targeted multiple critical infrastructure and major businesses. For example, San Francisco Bay Area Rapid Transit hit in January by a ransomware attack claimed by the Vice Society Group. While no service disruption occurred, stolen data was posted online, and BAR confirms no impacts on service or internal system, but concerns from the incident have arisen to the potential backdoor access to critical systems. Reddit with Black Hat ransomware, Alpha B ransomware group, also known as Black Hat, claimed responsibility for a February cyber attack on Reddit. The attack, initiated through a successful phishing campaign, resulted on the thief of 80 gigabytes of data, including internal documents, source code, and employee and advertising information. The group had announced its intent to leak the stolen data after failed attempts to extort 4.5 million from Reddit for its deletion. Dole Food Company confirmed a ransomware attack that occurred in February, which compromised undisclosed number of employee records. While the impact was limited, production plants in North America were temporarily shut down due to the attack. The incident affected Dole's workforce data, as reported in their annual filing with the SEC. Another incident occurs in United States Marshal Services, USMS, described as a major incident. The ransomware attack on the U.S. Marshal Services, a federal law enforcement agency with the Department of Justice, compromised sensitive law enforcement data, including legal process returns, administrative data, and personally identifiable information of subject associated with United States Marshal Services investigations, third parties, and certain United States Marshal Services employees. And two other more biggest incident in this year. occurred in May in the city of Oregon encountered a ransomware attack when county data was encrypted election and 9/11 dispatch remained under control, but all the government operations were impacted. Restoring systems were calculated at the cost of millions of software reload and network reconstruction. Claimed by Royal Ransomware, the attackers demand a ransom for data access with the specific amount not disclosed by county officials. And the last one, Enso Biochem, the New York biotech company, suffered a ransomware attack in April, compromised test data and personal information of approximately 2.5 million individuals, named, test data, and 600,000 social security numbers were accessed. The attack on Enso closely followed a separate attack on pharmacy chain Pharmerica in May that saw the sensitive data of nearly 6 million people exposed. Okay, from Rich Security, we have a product that can effectively help any organization perform ethical hacking tasks efficiently, having everything in a centralized console and being able to do all kinds of tests to measure our security levels of digital ads, whether they are private IPs or public IPs, as well as websites. The ritual brain think like hacker is your best defense now, powered by AI engine and expert knowledge, real scenario testing with ransomware attacks. We have more than 10 scenarios, including breach and attack simulation too. Present an attack path and exploit results from a hacker's point of view. Maintain security posture with historical trending report and provide suggestions to shorten remediation. Our ritual platform with artificial intelligence is within the Gartner Hype Cycle, covering the part of automated penetration testing and red teaming technology, and they also placed us with the breach and attack simulation category. We have several recognition from Gartner and the RCA that were recently carried out. Our total has 12 scenarios, of which 9 are pentest scenarios and 3 additional scenarios: endpoint security, data exfiltration, and Active Directory recon that fall into the breach and attack simulation category. It should be noted that our solution only uses agent for these 3 scenarios in particular. Breach and attack simulation scenarios use agent, data exfiltration, Active Directory recon, and endpoint security, where we use the Mitre and attack framework. And for the other pentest scenario, we do not require any type of agent. As additional information, our platform is not a SaaS. but you have the ability to deploy it in a cloud environment, for example, AWS, Azure, GCP, etc. Or well, on a virtualized environment with your infrastructure. For obvious confidentiality reasons, so that each client can manage their platform and see how it's doing maturity level of the organization independent. So core technologies of Richbot is scanning. The first step is discovery, asset fingerprinting, smart crawling, scanning, identifying attack surface discovery, weak linking searching, then identify vulnerabilities of this asset, and then try to exploit multi-threading, iterative attacks, and multi-vector. And then the capability of post-exploitation with privilege escalation and lateral movement. Let me share my screen for enter in the dashboard of Richbot. Give me a second, please.
We can see it now.
Okay, thanks, Masrat. In this demonstration, we set up our ransomware task, trying to show what the Richbot is, in this case, could discover about those assets. Uh, it should be noted that this is not a simulation of ransomware as such, but rather we see it from the point of view that if a vulnerability can be exploited, for example, by an RCE, that of a cyber criminal will allow us to deploy ransomware in the organization. That is why we have that vision about this particular scenario we are seeing. For this particular scenario, we see one IP, and we are going to see about the task, what the robot is showing. For example, we see that it showed more than 20 attack surfaces and also found 5 associated risks on those assets. In the topology part, we are going to see how the robot found and demonstrated the kill chain analysis, as well as the sequence of attack that the robot took to exploit an asset. Let me show you here. For example, for this kind of vulnerability, we found an open port 3306 corresponding to a MySQL database found in MySQL weak password vulnerability. And then the robot in the attack sequence 4, the last one, using MySQL weak password, exploit vulnerability and discover and extract database of information of all MySQL. For other one of type of risk, we have found an open port open 80. This open port and this IP identified by a new attack surface identification. Then the robot found a PHP remote command execution, and the last step, the robot search and run an exploit to this vulnerability, taking all the control of the digital asset. I did that later for this specific task. It took look more than half an hour to finish identifying 4 high vulnerabilities. Now we are going to show the vulnerability table where we are going to see the level of detail. Sorry, there is here. Seeing the level of detail of each of them, as well as the request chain and the response that the robot sent and received about the test, as well as the payload that it used to exploit said vulnerability. Let me show you here. Here is the type of vulnerability, weak credential, the severity, CVS score, description and solutions, and additional references to this vulnerability. And C2, the payload used to identify here the password is in blank for these 2 user identifier. And interesting here in the vulnerability about PHP, the remote code execution, we can see what kind of payload launch the reachbot for exploit this vulnerability. Okay. In the risk table view, we will be able to see the assets exploited by reachbot, seeing, for example, a risk of database manipulation, remote command execution, and credential disclosure. In risk of database manipulation, we'll see the database schema, such as the databases and the tables associated with that asset. Okay, as evidence that the vulnerability was exploited and in another risk, for example, for remote command execution, we will see here that the robot managed to exploit a PHP vulnerability by taking control of the www data current user on the operating system that exploited was Linux with the respected kernel version. And if we want to see a little more, we will be able to navigate through the terminal, where we already have control of that digital asset exploited by the robot, where we could launch predetermined commands. But I think it is enough evidence for the owner of the asset to see that we already had full control of that asset. And if this same thing were exploited by a cyber criminal, we could already be out of the game because they could easily deploy ransomware in the organization. Then regarding the reports, we have OWASP-based reports for web scenarios, and a more summarized for management, or more detailed report with the entire level of vulnerabilities identified. In addition to that report, that a report on CSV format, so that they can, for example, import into Power BI or Google Data Studio. Richbook automatically generates a test report right after the testing is done. The reports provide your various business team with the critical risk information they need. For executives, assessment provides a summarized overview of enterprise business risk. For compliance teams, they use the report to satisfy compliance auditors. And for both SecOps and DevOps teams, Richboot permits them to conduct continuous security testing, enable them to perform testing before every release. For procurement, prevent security sanity check on software provided by third parties. We have integration with Jira and ServiceNow. We has the possibility of tag this vulnerability and deploy Reachbot. Okay, that is roughly the great potential of our solution and how it could help them not only to be testing their asset continuously, but it will also help them greatly reduce the workload by doing this task manually or help internal cyber security teams. What else? Reachbot, what do I say? It's a fully automated and continuous penetration testing system. It couples ethical hacking techniques with AI-driven decision-making algorithms to locate vulnerable targets, then exploit the targets and prioritize business risks with the enterprise. Okay. I thank everyone present very much, and if you have any additional question or queries, you can contact us through our networks or respond here. Thank you to all.
Thank you, Claudio. Thanks, everyone, for joining today's session. If you have any question, feel free to leave it in the Q&A section or reach out to us by email to marketing@reachsecurity.ai. Thank you, Claudio. And we'll be sharing the recording of the session later today by email, and you will be able to find it on our webinar page later today as well in reachsecurity.ai/webinars.
Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you very much, Monserrat.
Have a good day, everyone.